Save big money now on new siding from LP SmartSide at Menards. Update and beautify your home with your choice of 13 timeless colors of pre-finished engineered siding. It's durable and includes a Sherwin-Williams factory finish paint warranty that means no painting for years to come. View our entire selection of siding from LP SmartSide today. And don't forget to check out our flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Get ready for that. Will it start Super Bowl halftime or not? That is the question. Probably Usher's most notable tune, simply called Yeah. And when it comes to, did Team Shuster win in curling? Guess what the answer is? Yeah.
Let's take a quick second, though, Brian, to tip our hats to our sponsors.
Absolutely. Are they good? Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Starting with Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart, Spike Sports and Trophies, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Comfort Systems, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Arola, Architecture Studio, Hoops Brewing, OAR Holdings, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Brian, that's your carrier up here in northeastern Minnesota.
I see what you did there.
Advantage Emblem Screen Printing, Sammy's Pizza, and the Blackwoods Group. Their locations include London Road, in Proctor and in Two Harbors, Blackwater downtown, and Tavern on the Hill.
Absolutely. So we go to good curling because I'll tell you what, Team Shuster does a lot of good curling. John's great, but we also talked to Chris Plys. He's with us this morning. Chris, always a great conversation. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Nice to have you, of course. And, of course, we're on the eve of the big game, the Super Bowl. Did you just win the Super Bowl of curling here in the past week?
No, I think it was more like winning the division. We still got our World Championships coming up next month over in Switzerland. So, that's more of our Super Bowl. So we still got a lot of work to do.
You do, and how much does this say for Duluth? Because winning the national championship, oh, by the way, all you had to do was beat another local rink. This area is dominating this sport, is it not?
Yeah. No, we played Corey Dropkin in the final, so he's a transplant local now, but really good player, and he had won the World Mixed Doubles Championships last year with Corey Tisi, who's also another Duluth person. So there's a lot of good players coming out of town, and I think, personally, I just think that when you have good players that are around, it's Duluth's kind of made a name for itself in its club of just having good players that you can get good games and get just kind of make each other better. So yeah, we're lucky to live here.
I would agree with that. Now tell me this: the first segment we did today was about what's a Super Bowl in Minnesota, because as Viking fans, and you and I are on the younger side of Viking fans, we have no idea because our team hasn't made it that far. So we talked about playing somebody else or playing in an equally as big game becomes our quote-unquote Super Bowl. You have to figure that facing Team Shuster in curling is becoming a lot of people's Super Bowl, is it not? Maybe Mr. Dropkin could be the headliner of that conversation.
Yeah, no, we've had some good battles over the last few years, and luckily for us, we've come out on top on the majority of those. But we're just the old guys trying to just keep going, and I mean, we can see these guys coming up behind us. So, and I think that honestly just makes us better, to forces us to just keep working hard, and
Brian, the one thing when we were talking about the Super Bowls, the one thing we were talking about is how sometimes it's a Super Bowl of envy, right? And the way that Chris and Team Shuster presents themselves as fun and casual and still beating people,
right?
That's got to drive other teams.
I was going to say, you envy the fact that you guys look like it's just a blast. We're hanging out, we're curling on a weekend, and oh, by the way, we won. But that's the way you guys carry yourselves and exude the style. But you guys are gritting and grinding, working pretty hard, aren't you?
Yeah, we're definitely working hard. But man, I'm sure this isn't going to be breaking news to either of you guys, but curling you're going to get rich off curling. So if you ain't having fun, then you gotta find something else to do.
So Kristen, I have a quick question for you. Looking backwards, you're right about how curling seems to be having a new boom in our area. How much of that do you look back at that Olympic victory and say, yeah, they got inspired. Kids are getting inspired, and we're starting to see, younger curlers coming up that are going to be pushing you in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. you go down to the curling club on Tuesday nights and Sundays, and just even on open ice days, and there's a lot of young kids down there, and we have a super healthy development program happening. And even at our nationals this last week in New Jersey, there was a few teams that, the average age was probably 15 years younger than anybody on our team. So it's I think 18 was a huge catalyst for growth. And I also think that it's just become, like shows like this, our local media, Rachel Blunt down in the cities, and Lavelle, and all these people that have really started, paying closer attention and doing write-ups and having interviews and just exposing the sport. So people are seeing it in the news more often, and that's been a huge thing too. Just having that, and it's great for us too, because it's not like we do this for the recognition, but it's definitely a sport that we all super care about. And so having that exposure to bring people new into the sport is pretty awesome for us to see.
I have to go a little bit tongue-in-cheek and a little bit of an inside joke here. Talking with Chris Plys, you talk about different media outlets giving you proper recognition. I know what a big Common Man fan you are. Are you still chomping at the bit to be on there again?
I would definitely go on the ground if I ever had the chance again. I've been a lifelong Common guy, and the couple times I've got to call in or go in the studio has been a highlight for.
I was going to say, one quick follow-up. Chris Plys gets to choose a radio game, initials or program password. And who's your partner by choice?
Oh, man. See, program password it's a decent game, but initials that's just genius. That's just a genius.
It really
game.
is. It really is. It's so simple. It's great.
I like the power trip too. So I'd probably have to go with initials, just because that game is just brilliant.
It definitely is, and you guys have had some brilliant curling games as well. I want to talk a little bit about what you said just a moment ago when some of the curlers have been 10, 15 years younger than you. You can continue in this sport, into your golden years. My dad did it into his 60s, but there's a difference between playing for the joy of it and playing at the competitive level you do. What kind of age do you expect to be at when you say, okay, I'm done grinding at this? Do you have 10 years left? Do you have 20 years left? What do you think? What does your body tell you?
I think I got about 2 years left. I think after this next Olympic cycle, I'm going to be done competing at this level, and it's just trying to balance work and family life and friends and everything else with the travel and everything. Is just it's a lot to balance. And like Alyssa, for me, like she's always been super supportive, but
right.
I don't want to keep leaving her at home for 100+ days a year either. So so I think after this Olympic cycle, I'm gonna take a step back and still stay involved with the sport in some capacity, whether that's like some coaching and just playing all the fun spiels that we miss getting a chance to play in with friends and stuff. But yeah, man, like just seeing the younger guys and gals grinding, it just lets you know, like, okay, it's been a really good run. It's been a really, really fun ride. And, but I just can't keep up with these young guns anymore.
I hear you with that. It kind of made me chuckle a little bit, Dave, when he talked about leaving your spouse at home for 100 days a year. You don't have to travel as widely as Team Shuster does to do that, because a couple announcers in this studio that are probably guilty of that throughout seasons as well.
I was listening
for sure.
I was listening to Dana talk to a friend the other day, and she's like, and sometimes when he doesn't go, it's hard because I look forward to my time.
Right. I get the same question. Sometimes it's when are you home? And then I am home and it's when's your next game? So that can be difficult without question. Chris, you said something at the very beginning about, this is like winning a division. We got a lot of work left to do. What goes into the work? I mean, is it as simple as, hey, we're shooting rocks on a daily basis, or is it, cardio? Are you running? Because curling is a sport that people don't see the fitness that is required, but it is.
Yeah, for sure. As far as cardio, I don't run.
You and me both.
It's unless the old saying, like, unless there's a bear chasing me, like that's about it.
And you just got to be faster than the other guy.
Totally, totally. Yeah, no, I spend a lot of time on like the rowing machine, and I also really enjoy biking. So I get my cardio in that way, and then yeah, just being at the club a lot, getting a lot of rocks in, and we're going to be heading over to Scotland here in a few weeks for a kind of a tune-up tournament, and yeah, then just some team like practices and stuff. And I know this is kind of a weird time of year, like everybody's into their country qualifications and all that kind of stuff. So like our tour season is kind of over. So yeah, we're having to travel all the way over to Scotland to find a tournament, which is crazy. But again, I mean, travel is like my favorite part of this whole thing. So
I was going to say, having to
as
go
much as
that
it is, yeah.
right. I was going to say, having to go that far to find a tune-up tournament, is that odd? Is it something where the people in this tournament are going, "Oh my gosh, Team Shuster's here," or is it one of those where everybody goes because, like you said, there's not that many places to go right now?
Yeah, I think all the teams pretty much from the World Championships, like I would assume the majority of them are going to be there because yeah, it's just so hard to find games right now. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Scotland is like one of those places where you have a lot of Euros at the World Championships. So I mean, for those people, it's really not that difficult to pop over. And but yeah, it'll be interesting see who else shows up. But I mean, having it be where the sport really originated, it's always a treat to get to go over there and play in Scotland.
So, Chris, one question that brings to mind is, are there ever smaller tournaments that you get an email from, or Shuster gets an email from, and they're like, we'd like you to come and compete, we'd like to come in, and then they offer to fund things, like they're asking you to almost barnstorm? Yeah,
I mean, like probably my favorite tournament I've ever had a chance to play in, and been lucky enough to play in it 5 or 6 times, is over in Kurosawa, Japan, and that's an invite where they help you out to get over there and all that stuff. And yeah, it's that. Those are my favorite emails to get because you're like, hell yeah, we don't have to blow our budget on this, and we get to go see somewhere new. And Japan is just a super special place to me. I mean, my favorite place to travel. I mean, the people and the food and everything is just phenomenal.
I was just going to say, if people want to get the insight into the travel piece and not just the curling piece, your Twitter account is one of my favorite places to just kind of peruse a little bit because you're pretty good about taking it all in. You're big with pictures. You're big with stories about food. It sounds like you took a question away from me that Japan's been the place for you in terms of a traveler, not just a curler.
Yeah, it's just such an incredible place. It's, the trains are super efficient, so you never really have to drive. Yeah. The food is just amazing. They take so much pride in everything. I mean, even the 7-Elevens food is super good. So, I mean, it's just from gas stations to fine dining. I mean, the food is unmatched in my opinion. And the people are just amazing, and they love curling over there. So just a really fun place to play.
We are talking with Olympic curler Chris Plys, but Chris Plys is also part of our fantasy football league here at the Northland Sports Page, and it is the eve of the Super Bowl after all. I'm going to ask you a couple football questions. I'm going to start with one that pertains to your curling team. Has Matt Hamilton tried to fill your mind with rubbish that Jordan Love will win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years?
I think, interestingly enough, like we got into an argument about this the other day where he says that he doesn't want to extend him until he proves more, and I was like, man, I mean, I think you gotta extend this guy. I mean, partly because he's looked so good, but partly because if he ends up being bad, it'd be a great situation for Minnesota.
I was gonna say there was a little inner Viking fan in that suggestion, wasn't there?
Oh, for sure. But yeah, no, he's still on the fence with Jordan, I think. But I'm sure it'll work out. It's been 30 years or whatever it's been.
And I have to tell you, I thought of you this week because the NFL awards banquet was this week, and your best line of our fantasy football draft this year was big Cleveland guy this year, and you overcame the Nick Chubb immediate injury. It didn't necessarily help your fantasy team. Mine was awful, by the way, but it didn't necessarily help your fantasy team. But I thought of you as Kevin Stefanski got Coach of the Year. Myles Garrett won a defensive award. Are you still a big Cleveland guy going forward, or was that just for fantasy purposes and Nick Chubb let you down a little bit?
Yeah, that was tough. I don't know. I like Cleveland. I mean, I like those teams. I was cheering for Detroit with their late run. I think in Minnesota it's just easy to sympathize with fan bases that have had a tough go at things. So, I think I was a bit more of a Cleveland guy just because of my maybe reach for Nick Chubb, but no, it's I'll always hope for those underdogs until they start winning too much.
All I know is it was the best line I've ever heard. You looked at me across the table, just deadpan, and said, "Big Cleveland guy this year." And I thought, you mean like Peter Griffin's friend? Oh no, you meant the Browns. So that was pretty cool too. Speaking of football, though, it is the eve of the big game. Who you got tomorrow? Because we don't have those suffering fan bases. We have a very good Kansas City Chiefs team, at least a very good quarterback and a very good tight end, against a tremendously balanced 49ers team. Who do you like?
I mean, I'm pulling. So the Niners, I don't know. They've just kind of been one of the teams that I've liked over the years. I mean, for a while there, Vernon Davis was involved with curling and stuff, and so got to spend some time out at the 49ers facility, and it just kind of became one of my teams, I guess, when we were doing a bunch of stuff with him. But I'm picking the Niners. I know their defenses look super sketch, like between the Lions and the Pack game. But man, if they can get Debo working, and they just got so many weapons, and they got some studs on defense too. So, and I don't know, this Chiefs team. I mean, I had Baltimore last week, so I guess I shouldn't be. My thoughts shouldn't be taken too
Bet
literally,
the opposite. If you're laying money down, whatever you say, do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Kansas City, though, they just figure it out. I mean, they just find a way to work different guys in, and even guys like Kelsey that the ball is coming to him, a lion's share of the time. They just still can't stop him. So, I'm taking the Niners, but I don't know. I guess I don't really care that much either way.
All right, I can appreciate that. You gave me a great segue for one last question when you talked about Vernon Davis. Jared Allen has been a big part of curling as well. He was a little miffed by his Hall of Fame omission, but talk to me about Jared Allen, the curler. What's it like to see that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, to be honest with you, it was like I was a little concerned when all this news was coming out about Jared making this run for the Olympics and all this kind of stuff. It is like a game that we've done a lot of work to legitimize, and he just worried that it's going to come in and just become this like circus and a joke and all that kind of stuff. But Jared has treated the sport with nothing but respect. He's worked his butt off. He's, traveling all over the place. He's renting nights, whether it's down in Nashville or out in Tahoe or wherever he's at. And he's just really I don't know. He just hasn't made a mockery of it at all. And, he's just been a super genuine, nice guy. Always, cracking jokes and, just being one of the guys when he's around. So I honestly have nothing really bad to say about the guy. I think he's deserving of getting in the Hall of Fame. You're seeing some of these guys come in, and not that they all haven't had fantastic careers, but I mean, Jared's longevity and stuff was pretty unreal and was a difference maker pretty much his entire career. So I don't know what else you got to do to get the nod for that, but hopefully he'll get a chance at that someday. So.
I would agree with that. He hasn't made a mockery of curling, but he made a mockery of a lot of quarterbacks. And I'll tell you what, I hope Team Shuster continues to make a mockery of a lot of competition. CP, this was fun. We need to do it again.
Absolutely, Brian. Thank you very much. Both of you guys. Appreciate you guys. And, go Bulldogs tonight.
Yeah, we like that. By the way, that's Jonah's brother, Chris Plys. Can we close with that?
Oh, of course.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, bud. Thank you very much for your time.
Yep.
All right. That's our guy, Olympic curler Chris Plys. He's just fun.
Yeah, he's personification of what the sport feels like to me. It's just fun and casual and very focused behind the scenes, but up front, he's just a guy, right?
Absolutely. One of the best conversations on or off the air. We'll play buy or sell next. I'm buying what Chris Plys is selling to me. Everything he says, I chuckle and enjoy. Hope you're doing that with our show. Stick around. We'll be right back. Back here on the Northland Sports page, the DJ got us falling in love. I don't know if when I was a DJ, if I ever did that, but one of our listeners, and I bet you could guess who, Dave Cook, said he's enjoying the music today, especially with the Toby Keith tribute during hour one. because it reminded him of the Brian O'Brien days. And I'm pretty sure you know what listener probably said that right to me.
Yeah, I suspect I do. If they've got your contact information, I know who it is.
Yeah, he's out California loving for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly approved.
Yes. But by the way, we are loving our sponsors each and every week. Dave Cook's going to tell you all about them.
Also, Kelly approved. Let's start with our original sponsor, Arola Architecture Studio. Hoops Brewing, OAR Holdings, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Sammy's Pizza, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road, in Proctor, and in Two Harbors, Blackwater, right downtown, like a couple of blocks away from us, Tavern on the Hill, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, and Comfort Systems of Duluth.
And don't forget on Super Bowl Eve, that free TV if you buy a vehicle, courtesy of Kohler Hyundai. And again, if you don't need a TV, I know somebody who'd take it. Not just for the Super Bowl, forever.
Yeah,
I
right.
won't return
Bring
it at the end of the game, I
bring it
promise
back
you.
to your house.
Yeah, there's
Thanks
no
for
question that it would stick around. Now, to be fair, my wife is probably going, why do you keep saying that? Our TVs are fine. I know, but it could always be better.
Yeah. Brian, we've got 3 now. Stop it.
I know. We have more TVs than house now. Are you done?
Exactly.
Yeah. You had enough listeners actually come through for you. Now we have a room that's just called the TV room. Not because there's a TV in there, because there's nothing but TVs
It looks
in there.
like a baby Hoops Brewing. We got
Right.
20 TVs in here, too.
Well, and I love that you mentioned that because I was just thinking going into this segment that just about every conversation we've had today with Chris Plys, with Chelsea Brown, with Dave Hoops, kind of reminds me of just chatter over a beer. And a lot of people kind of peg this show that way, and I love it.
Yeah, no, that was the original idea, right? The original idea was just we're going to talk about local stuff and be as comfortable as possible. So if people are saying that, we're doing it right.
Absolutely. So I hope people are buying what we're selling, and that's what we do this segment. We're going to play buy or sell. Here's how the game works. I'm going to give a statement about each of the 4 major sports leagues. If Dave agrees, he's going to say buy. He's going to tell me why. If he disagrees, he's going to say sell, and he tells me why. He's also going to tell me which league, emphasis on league, that we're going to play in a particular order. He's done well with that the last couple of weeks. He
been
still
working
chuckles about it, but
Yep.
I think you've got it down. Let's see how you do today.
Doing stretches and getting ready to go here. With
I was going to say,
thing.
you did ask me during the last break if you could leave the studio for a moment. I assume it was just calisthenics.
Yes, 100% what it was. Getting the mind ready.
Right.
Let's start with the National Football League because it is Super Bowl. Oh, sorry, it's the big game week.
I was going to say it is Super Bowl Eve, and I can just tell you that you are going to hate this buy or sell statement because you don't like this team at all. So with the 49ers win over Detroit to get to this particular football game, yes, it's the Super Bowl, but the big game has become more in vogue. San Francisco now leads the NFL historically in postseason victories. If they win tomorrow and capture another Super Bowl, even though I know other teams have more, are they the best franchise in NFL history?
I
Buy
hate
or sell?
this question.
I knew it. I preface it by saying you would. Thanks for coming through for me.
Yeah, no, I am going to sell, but more sell because I feel like I should than maybe how I actually believe.
I was going to say, are you selling with your heart and not your head?
So I'm going to say something blasphemous.
Okay.
The best.
You're going to put it on Green Bay, aren't you?
I am. Yep.
And there's merit to that, but they call themselves Title Town, and they have the most going back to when you had to win like 2 games to win it all because there were 4 teams. They haven't won a title in, I want to say, 14 years. But they're probably it. But man, San Francisco is right there.
Yeah.
Especially with iconic players. You know, when you talk about Green Bay, they have several too, but it starts with basically a trio of quarterbacks, and then it kind of fades a little bit. Whereas San Francisco, I feel like you can go offense, you can go defense. You can name San Francisco legends who are NFL legends for a while. So I think there are a lot of contenders for this. So I'm perfectly okay with if somebody says I'm going to sell barely or I'm going to buy barely, because I feel like Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Dallas, sort of, but Dallas is laughable now. People will say New England, but New England was one guy.
Yeah, New England. Well, 2 guys if you want to count the coach and me together.
Correct.
Yeah, those 3. You know, I know there's people out there that are hollering about the New York Giants. They haven't been anything for a while. I really do think it's San Francisco, Green Bay, or Dallas. I really do. Pittsburgh is I think just a snitch down.
Well, and what's ironic is you could say, well, which one of those didn't have major peaks and valleys? But the answer is none, because Dallas was terrible for a little while. Don't forget Troy Aikman won 1 game in his first year. Green Bay was abysmal for most of the 80s. You look at San Francisco, and they had some poor years. They're probably the closest one to never being truly terrible for a long stretch.
If you ask which team wasn't truly terrible over its careers, it's ours. Like we've
Right,
never
but you have to be
been
good at some
truly
point, too.
bad. I think, but Green Bay's been better than San Francisco since Favre started. Like the whole peaks and valleys, they've been just kind of,
Although
9 and 10 win years.
Yeah, but Steve Young was still in the league when Brett Favre was, and
Yeah, but
beat 'em
San
up
Francisco
plenty.
also had some really tough years in the middle, and Green
Correct.
Bay really hasn't.
But San Francisco's beaten Green Bay the last 6 playoff games.
Nope, I agree with that, but we're comparing the two.
So I don't think it's a buy or sell where you go, yeah, one of those.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
All right, so the non-committal version of buy or sell in the NFL.
It's like that light beer commercial where the Michelob and the other one, they have 1 gram less of sugar. You can buy either one unless you want the sugar.
It's buy or sell, and you'd say, can I put it on layaway? I'll come back tomorrow.
Exactly
I got to think
right.
about it after the result of tomorrow's game.
All right, we are about to go into spring training, so let's go with Major League Baseball.
All right, Major League Baseball. Now, to me, this was odd that this news became bigger news yesterday because I knew about it for a few weeks. Miguel Sano has been signed by the Angels. I'm glad he's getting another chance, but buy or sell that he can resurrect his career. Does he have it in him?
I'm going to buy it.
Okay.
I think that as long as he's in shape and motivated, he was always good. It's when he stopped being motivated because he was comfortable with where he was that things started to go sideways. And, when you're at that point, you can just grip and rip. He was a good hitter before he lost his ability to square up on a baseball. He's had a couple years to work on it, and he's back, and he had to bust his tail to get back. And so I think that he's going to be pretty good.
All right, so I agree with everything you said, but it's also why I'm going to say sell. Because it is, as long as he's motivated and in shape, he can do this. And I hope he does, even though everybody will go, we didn't need him when he goes 30 bombs and drives in 100. But here's the thing. How many years when he was in Minnesota did we hear during spring training, oh, Sano's 20 pounds lighter, he's hitting bombs left and right. This is going to be the year. And then it never was. So it makes me wonder, what are you doing during the regular season? Are you doing the same things that I do when you get home from a game, you sit on the couch with a bag of nachos and you don't get up till you finish because the next day he can't do anything?
Yeah.
I got a feeling there's a bad habit we don't know about that he's going to fall back into.
He's also not the savior. He was going to be the savior here, right? It's Trout's organization. It's Trout's program. You can do things the way Trout has, and we don't know what that looks like. Right?
Can he be in the shadows and succeed?
Right, and that's going to be the question. And I think it's a good organization because there's zero pressure. Right?
Yeah.
They're not expected
Or
to
do you
win.
simply say this is where careers go to die because Mike Trout is amazing, but the team goes nowhere?
Yeah.
Anthony Rendon came here. He hasn't done much. The Angels spend and pick up big names and still lose. Sano's not a big name. Whether they win or lose, what's he going to do?
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that the funny thing is you know who he's replacing, right? He is the DH replacement for
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting when they have him pitch.
Well, I said the DH side of it.
Right. But I think it would be fun if Miguel Sano was ever on the mound. I don't care if it's 20-2. I want to see that.
That would be looking a little like Bartolo Colon, but yes.
It would.
All right.
It would be a different version of Big Sexy. Two down, 2 to go.
So this is, so we've got NBA and NHL All-Stars on opposite sides here of this weekend. So let's start with the NBA.
All right. So speaking of All-Stars, Anthony Edwards, All-Star. Karl Anthony Towns, All-Star. My mom will be so happy that I used both their names when I could have said Cant and Ant, All-Stars, although I couldn't have said it apparently. Yeah. Plus, it sounds like a Dr. Seuss book. Cat and Ant, All-Stars. Buy or sell, Rudy Gobert got snubbed.
Well, yeah, but so did a lot of guys. Rudy Gobert has been a defensive power, right? No question. But defense doesn't sell in the All-Star game, and he's not the only one that got snubbed. So sure, but get in line.
Right. So I'm going to sell that he got snubbed again because of everything you said is correct. I just take the other response because everybody else got quote unquote snubbed as well. But here's why I don't think he got snubbed. Look at the roster that they did take. Who you putting Rudy Gobert in instead of?
Yep.
There are people worthy of all-star selections, but then you got 45 of them.
I think what people who really think Rudy got snubbed don't realize is how good Cat's been this year.
Right.
That would be the replacement, right? It would be 1 for 1. We wouldn't
or
get
would it?
3.
Because one's a 4 and one's a 5.
No, but I think that people nationally think Cat's a 5 playing out of position. So
Well, and I think if you look at the all-star rosters, they did that with everybody. I looked at the rosters this morning, and I'm like, so everybody's a 2-3.
everybody's a 2-3.
Or a point forward. There's no traditional positioning in this at all. We're just going to take the most marketable, entertaining players and leave it at that.
And you know what? It's an all-star game, so knock yourself out.
Well,
Sounds like fun.
Or just don't if you're Anthony Edwards or Karl Anthony Towns. Come out of this 100% and let's go.
But I do think that people who really want Gobert need to understand that Cat's been their best player all year, and they are the first-place team in the West.
This isn't a buy or sell, but you talked about both teams being near all-star mode. Which one would you attend, NBA or NHL, if you had one ticket?
That's a heck of a question.
Thank you.
Probably the NBA.
Me too.
Because I don't understand the NHL one quite as much. Because there's so many bits and pieces. We're drafting fancy teams. We're going 3-on-3. But we don't know who's. There's just so many moving parts.
Right.
I'd rather go see the hockey skills competition.
Right. I agree with that too.
But
I think I would attend that before any of the games.
yeah, I guess I agree with that too. Probably the skills competition would be number 1 hockey, number 2 basketball, and then the games.
Right.
Like I'd rather see the competitions on both sides.
I was going to say the games could be an undercard or an afterthought.
Yeah,
Or both.
We kind of are.
All right. So we've got one left. Do you know which one it is?
I do. It's steel and ice, baby. It's the NHL.
It absolutely is. And we talked about this before the show today because I joked again, the Wild came out of their bye week and all they've done is win, win, win no matter what. There was an article this week about can the Wild make a run? And the author said, check the standings if you want your answer. And the belief is that they're buried in the standings and can't do it. Buy or sell that the Minnesota Wild are actually buried in the standings and can't make a run because of it.
Well, define the word run. I mean, can they make the playoffs? Sure. But that would probably be the worst thing that they could do for the franchise. Like if you become the 8th seed and you get just destroyed in the first round, well, you made the playoffs. Hat tip, right? I don't think they have the consistency or horsepower to make a run. When we talk about making a run, we're not talking about making the playoffs. We're talking about getting to a conference championship. They're not that kind of horses. And so, I mean, their defense is not anywhere near good enough to do that. And for a Wild team, that's a strange thing to say. So I would prefer they don't. They get a better draft choice. They're smart about it.
Right.
They let some of their kids flex a little bit. And let's talk about let's make a huge run. Let's be the best team in the league.
Next year or 2 years?
2 years.
I think it's going to take 2. I wanted to talk about Bill Guerin got another GM job this week. Buy or sell that increases or decreases your confidence in him?
I think he's going to be fine. It's whether or not he brings all veterans to the Olympics, I guess, is the question, because he seems to really like bringing the old guys who are hard workers but not necessarily the best players and give them extended contracts. So here we go.
Right. I'm going to sell that the Wild are buried in the standings, but I'll buy that they can't make a run because I just don't think they're very good. But again, we talk about the way they have played both in the eye test and the results, and you go to look at the standings and you go, this team must be dead in the water. And you're looking and you're going, boy, the difference between being in the playoff picture and out is like 4 points.
Yep.
And 2-game win streaks can take you in and out of that proverbial bubble. I think you're right. They need to be smart about this and hopefully get a good draft pick. But if you can't help but win, if you get an 8 seed, just get in and go, I guess.
So here's the thing I will say about the Wild. They really haven't played well. Like, I know that, right?
They really haven't,
but
though.
None of their players have had those moments. Kaprizov had, a week there where he was hot. But Boldy's not really been good, right? Rodin's been
scored
hurt.
last night. I think he's got 17.
Yeah, and so if those guys all start to click, if Zuccarello looks like Zuccarello looked like 2 years ago, okay, let me know when that happens. But when it happens, yeah, that team could make a run, but they haven't shown any inkling of doing that.
Here's the fun part. Because the Timberwolves have been good this year, nobody's going to care.
Correct.
But that's my hope. I don't know that I'm actually correct when I say that, because we talked about we should put a poll on Twitter about who do you care more about what she's doing, Caitlin Clark or Taylor Swift, and we think we know who would win. I would love to put a poll out there of who would you rather watch and follow, the Wolves or the Wild, in their current status. I still think the state of hockey would be hockey snobbish on it, even though talent, record, and atmosphere, there's no question it should be the Timberwolves.
Yeah, if it's our poll, yeah, you're right. But I think if it's a statewide poll,
It'd be fun to find out.
yeah.
because that would actually be interesting, just like they do politically when they go by counties.
Yes.
I would love to see what areas
county
think
map.
what. Like the Wolves would dominate the metro. The further north you go, I'm not sure they would.
No, I agree. And the question would be, what happens west? Those areas that aren't
Or
either.
the deep south. What's Winona going to say?
What's Winona going to say? Mankato is probably a hockey town.
I'll tell you what, hockey snobs, if you're still being hockey snobs about the Wild now, you make me want to do a lot of things that I can't say
You're efforting.
on the radio. We bump out with Usher. You make me want to. That's the end of Buy or Sell. It makes me want to call Vencie Glenn to close the show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Save big money at Menards. Let the fresh air in and keep the bugs out with replacement screen for your doors and windows from AdForce. It's easy to install, durable against the elements, and comes in a variety of types to suit your needs. Repair your screens today with a roll of replacement screen on sale through May 5th. And check out more great deals happening now in our weekly flyer on Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
A little less talk and a lot more action. I'll tell you what, in about 14, 15 minutes, that's going to be true because we're going to end the talk show and get ready to watch some action today.
Yeah, well, not just that, but we got to action out of here, Brian. We got to get going right away. You've got a senior day at 1 o'clock.
I was going to say, there's a phrase we use for that, but we can't use it on the radio because it would be our last show.
Hustle.
Speaking of, if you're looking to watch some action today, you can do it on Rails TV. They are carrying the Section 7A girls semis today. Game actually underway already, and another one at 2. And Rails TV, they did a lot for us this week, too.
Yeah, they really do. And again, if your child is interested in doing any kind of work in broadcasting, you got to go at least consider Rails TV and the Proctor High School because of it.
Absolutely. And our great sponsors make us able to do anything in addition to things like simulcasting with Rails TV.
Absolutely. So let's start with Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Kohler Hyundai and Kohler Toyota, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road, in Proctor, in Two Harbors, at Blackwater, and Tavern on the Hill. Sammy's Pizza, Advantage Implement Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your carrier, HVAC authorized dealer. Brian, that's your carrier.
It's an HVAC.
Yes. OAR Holdings, Hoops Brewing, and Arola Architecture Studio.
Arola Architecture Studio brings you Drawing Lines. Vencie Glenn is the star of Drawing Lines throughout football season. It is the eve of football's last game of the season. We'll leave it up to Vencie if he wants it to be a last segment for a while. He'll probably want to do a Super Bowl post-mortem next week. But again, we'll leave that up to him. And we say good morning right now, Mr. Vencie Glenn.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself? What does Vencie Glenn do on Super Bowl Sunday? Is there a big party? Is it watching it analytically alone? Do you watch it at all? What's Vencie Glenn's Super Bowl Sunday like?
I got to be honest. I'm antisocial. I'm antisocial, man. But my buddy wants me to go to my buddy right down the street wants me to come to his house for a Super Bowl party. But it's just hard for me because all these opinions and people where they know the game, which is great and all that, I just want to watch the game because I see it from a totally different point of view. And I don't knock people's opinions on games and all that. But it's so hyped on fan ball, but this is the most important game to me as far as any professional football player is concerned. So I like to watch it in my own kind of like space and kind of see it from the football point of view and not get caught up in the entertainment aspect.
All right, so you've talked about both of these teams last week. A week later, has any of your opinion changed? Who you got and why winning this football game?
I don't really know. I think both teams are the two best teams that have played well in the last 4 to 5 weeks. They find a way to win games. It's not always perfect, and that's the beauty of it. Normally we talk about how Mahomes and them is a scoring offense and all this, but both teams have pretty much gotten in there based off somewhat of what their defense is doing. So it's really not that offensive kind of game that you think it's going to be. I think it's going to be the team that was the best, like I said last week and the week before, is going to win. The guys that give up the biggest plays and make the biggest mistakes, they're probably going to lose.
I just think what Vencie was saying about watching the Super Bowl is so funny. Vencie, I remember going to friend's house and sitting there watching the football game and having people like, well, what do you think is going to happen now? And just like, shh. The only thing I had to do was tell people when the commercials were coming on because I think I was the only one watching the game. So, and then some. It's so funny. So here's my take, Brian. Vencie, I think that if it's close and the ball's in Mahomes' hand, Kansas City wins. Like he strikes me as that guy that if he has the control of what's going to happen,
he'll come through.
He's the guy that's going to come
But
through.
you also think it may not be close.
Well, I think San Francisco, I don't think Kansas City can blow out San Francisco. I do think the opposite could happen, but if it's close, Mahomes is a winner. And Vencie and I have talked about that before. It's the locker room, it's the together, it's who plays football on the field. And doggone it, Mahomes seems to be able to do that better than anybody else.
I agree. Vencie, I have to ask you this because Kansas City has been blown out before in a Super Bowl. Tom Brady with the Bucs did it. I think the final score was somewhere in the area of like 31-9. Could you see Kansas City getting obliterated tomorrow?
No, not getting obliterated, but I think this is going to be the key matchup. How well Travis Kelce can do against San Francisco's linebackers. They're the two best tandem linebackers in the league. And if he can find a way to keep them occupied, all these guys haven't been there before, so it's going to be a new test.
Dave, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, you have to tell people when the commercials are going, where I end up having to tell my wife when it's the 2-minute warning, and it just enhances how much she doesn't like football because she wants to be ready for the halftime show. But you and I both know that the 2-minute warning and halftime itself can be a half an hour apart.
Yeah, I hear about that all the time. Don't tell me when it's a 2-minute warning because that's about 15 minutes in real time. And it's like, yeah, that's probably right.
Right. They should really call it the 15-minute warning, even though there's 2 minutes left on the clock. But speaking of halftime, Vencie, this is a little bit of a in-jest type question, but I know you love music. I know you love dancing. Antisocial or not, is there a halftime show historically that you've ever been, hey, I'm into that?
Oh, yes, several halftime shows. Not of lately. I can't remember them in the past, because entertainment was different back then than what we see entertainment is today. It's hyped up for so long, and by the time you get to it, it's anticlimactic and stuff. But I think the best ones are, let me see what the commercials are like. I'd rather sit there and be quiet and let me hear the commercials. Guys be like, they spent $7 million on that.
I know, right?
You got to be kidding me.
The commercials are great because
I like the commercials more than the halftime show.
No, I agree with you. And there's always going to be a movie trailer that you're going to go, oh, I can't wait to see that. But they spend $10 million to put the trailer out for something that's 9 months away, but they do it on Super Bowl Sunday.
I tell you, the ones that do it right, though, when they hit the right commercial, it's worth every dollar of $7 million.
There's a reason why there's a YouTube link later where you can just watch all the commercials most of the time.
Yep. And Dana's watched that before, by the way. I have not. I've said, are you really going to watch all the... This is why they spend all that money, young lady. They spend it because you're going to go back on your YouTube and watch commercials again.
So, Vencie, you mentioned how much the defense have been difference makers for each of these teams. When you look at this situation and how good as a coordinator Steve Spagnuolo continues to be wherever he goes, Kansas City is the more, quote, no-name defense outside of Jones, but what can they do to disrupt things? Because they certainly disrupted everybody else they've played.
I just think they have probably, if not the best, top two corner in the league. What's 38th name? Brain went dead.
Snead. Yeah.
For Kansas City. Yeah.
Snead.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's good. He's very, very good, and he's smart. These guys understand defensive schematics. That's what makes them so good. They understand what the offense is trying to do and how they're trying to exploit them, and that's why their defense is so successful against different types of offenses. You know what I'm saying? They keep their offense in the game to where, hey, they give them a chance to make plays and win the game for you. And that's what you want. You want a defense. You're not going to just stop everybody. These guys are good on offense. But you have to slow them down and make them make decisions that they don't want to, which evolves into turnovers. So it's a real game. You mentally have to be into it every play at 110%. I've never been there, but that's how I would approach it, and just hustle, man, and just see what happens at the end. But you can't get do-overs after today, tomorrow.
I want to ask you one more question involving defense and more in the postseason awards because Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year again, and I understand why. But DeMeco Ryans, what he did with Houston is amazing, and he's so defensive-minded and was such a good defensive player. I still felt like he should have gotten it. First of all, what's your take on that? And second of all, when you were playing, did postseason awards mean anything to you?
No, not unless I was going to a Super Bowl. I really don't get caught up in individual awards. I look at it as a team concept. I think D'Amico Ryan should have been considered and definitely should have got Coach of the Year more than Stefanski because he has veteran players. D'Amico Ryan took a team out of the depths of hell and got them to believe in themselves and got a city to believe and get behind them. And they played at a high level, a level that they didn't even think they could play. And then they had injuries. So it's just a bright future for that organization, and they got the right leaders in place. So that's what I look at over the long run. I don't look at individual yearly awards. I think what you do for your city and your organization over a long period of time, this tells you how good that person was for that organization.
So, Vencie, I have one last question for you here, and it was Hall of Fame voting this week. And the one guy I want to ask you about, because I bet you have an opinion on Julius Peppers, because he played for so long and he was such a dominant defensive end for different teams. I'm wondering, when you see a guy, in my case, like Peppers or Reggie White back in the day, is there, how do I say this right? Is there a player that you watched on the field, maybe played with or played against, and you just said, that guy, he's got it, he's a Hall of Fame?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys that are just, and we'll go back to Minnesota. In 1992, on that team, there were 5 future Hall of Famers, guys that are in the Hall of Fame. From the 92 team. You might not have 2 guys, whole organization go in. But on that one team, we had 5 future Hall of Famers. That's crazy, man. Yep. So, when somebody's special, like a John Randall, Chris Dolman, Zimmerman, Chris Carter, you can just go down. That Warren Moon came in. You can just go down the list of guys that were like, oh, he's special. He's special. Yep.
Absolutely. And you are special to us, Vencie Glenn. We appreciate it. Let's talk next week. We'll wrap the football season then.
You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks,
you
Vencie,
as well.
as well.
That's our guy, Vencie Glenn. What a show. Everybody enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you next week.
You know how to book flights and hotels. All you're missing is a tool to plan the travel experiences you'll have once you arrive. That's why you need Viator. Book guided tours, excursions, and more in one place. There are over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from, so you can find something for everyone. And Viator offers free cancellation and 24/7 customer support for worry-free travel. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.